Neuer now is playing as a midfield player. There's going to be another goal here. This will be it. Song Heung-min, 2-0, that is it. But their World Cup is over. They are bottom of the group. They've lost 2 group games for the first time in history. 2-0 to South Korea. Incredible.
Germany out for the first time since 1938. And you know what? Germany won each group since 1990. And that has to make you think, does Joachim Löw regret bringing Leroy Sané? I mean, throughout this World Cup, we've seen a bunch of surprises. We've seen some all kinds of crazy stuff. And the World Cup curse lives on with Germany being now the 3rd team in a row to go out in the group stage. Throughout this World Cup, 37 games went without a 0-0 tie. That sets a new World Cup record. Lots of goals, and there's been 24 penalties in 48 matches so far. So it's apparent it could be the World Cup of penalties, World Cup of goals, whatever that you want to call it. And guess what? The Simpsons are predicting Mexico versus Portugal, and they did that in a 1997 episode. Guys?
We're back. We're back here again, straight live from Humber College. The usual team, Robert Belardi, myself, Devon Imrie, and to the left of me, Nelson Santo.
What's up,
the one
boys?
and only.
The only one.
The one and only.
What's going on, buddy? How was your week?
It's good, man.
Yeah?
Lots of soccer. It feels weird when there's a day without footy, right?
It's the first day without football at the World Cup.
I saw a photo on
Strange.
Instagram when it shows Ronaldo crying, Messi crying, Griezmann crying, everyone's crying, and I'm probably crying because there's nothing going on here.
It was weird waking up and not having anything to look forward to.
It's been an incredible World Cup so far. And if it all ended today, it could be marked down as one of the greatest in the history. We've had incredible moments of sheer brilliance with breathtaking goals. Good controversy thanks to VAR. Not deciding whether a team got robbed, but whether
Definitely
the
got robbed.
punishment was harsh enough, a.k.a. Ronaldo. And also holding defenders accountable for their actions. And then just the drama this week has been unreal. On Monday, we had Spain and Portugal crawl to the finish line, with Iran coming within inches of upsetting the European champs, and a VAR decision saving Spain from embarrassment. Tuesday saw one of the most unlikeliest of heroes save Messi's legacy and Argentina in the final 5 minutes after controversial no call against Rojo's handball. It allowed play to continue, and he came up with a strike that would have been world-class from any striker. Wednesday had the best of them, I think, that sent the world champs home, and even finished at the bottom of the group, as we just heard, which might be one of the most shocking parts of all time. And then yesterday, we had a team crash out of the tournament due to the fact they had 2 more yellow cards than the team ahead of them.
Shocking.
Just absolute scenes.
Definitely got to talk about that. That was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? For a team to go out on yellow cards, is there anything else that could have been done? I mean, I know I'm being a little bit critical because, yes, there is a system, but possession maybe, shots on target, because that's always within a poor percentage towards shots towards the target, maybe something like that. Anything that dictate the play, not down to sportsmanship. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't personally like it the way that Senegal were sent home.
Well, especially the way that Japan was ending the game, right? They were just passing it back and forth and trying not to not to make any fouls, get any cards. It's just really kind of ugly.
It's a little bit of anti-football like Mourinho plays, but personally, I don't have a problem with it. But we'll get into that, right, boys?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
We'll start off with tomorrow morning's game, France versus Argentina. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to take Argentina, even though I said before we go into this episode that I was going to rip Jorge Sampaoli a new one, and I still am, because I'm still not happy. All the qualifying games since he came in, 13 of them, he played a different lineup every single time. What are you doing not allowing some chemistry within your lineup for the team? You were playing 3 in the back against Croatia with Tagliafico, Mercado, and Otamendi holding the line. I mean, if you were going to do that, you might as well have brought Ezekiel Garay to the tournament. Something. Anything to do that. Never brought Javier Pastore. Never brought one of the most prolific goal scorers in Italy right now in Mauro Icardi. He's not providing the right chances for Lionel Messi to actually go for. He's not providing the country with a good hope that you are going to go for. But here's the catch to this. I think Argentina are going to win. France, however, have not conceded a goal against a South American team since 1986. With that being said, all the odds are in their favor. But we have not seen France at their best. We've seen France very finicky. They have not completed clean passes like they normally would. The chemistry seems to be a bit off. Olivier Giroud does make a huge difference for Didier Deschamps. I mean, of all the players that we can sit here and say in this World Cup that are stars and surprises, I mean, Olivier Giroud has to be one of those guys that just consistently comes out to play. And with that being said, France might dominate the midfield with Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante. I mean, Pogba has to facilitate everything like we've always talked about. He has to be that dominant midfielder that we know him to be. He should be against Argentina. I think it's going to come down to whose defense is going to come through. Is it going to be France's or is it going to be Argentina's? I think that Sampaoli should just play the same lineup, stick to that 4-4-2 he did against Nigeria. It worked. It worked very well. And we'll see what happens after that. But I think that Lionel Messi comes out. I think Di Maria makes a pretty good impact. Take off Tagliafico, put Marcus Rojo at left back, maybe bring in Federico Fazio.
Tagliafico's been awful to me.
Terrible.
Dreadful.
I'm going with France. And what I'm thinking is, like you said, they've been very finicky. I still think they have another gear that they can push forward. And they're more of a team than Argentina is, right? Because their coach is causing a lot of problems. They're not really together. And I just think that they still have that one gear. Like, they played against Denmark, Peru, Australia. No disrespect, but you're not playing against an Argentina. And I think they'll show up for the game. And I just think it's going to be too much for Argentina to handle. And the way that they've been playing, they got lucky. They scraped through. So I just think France is going to come out.
France for me has been very underwhelming, as for a lot of people. And I think the win versus Nigeria for Argentina will help bring this group together. Like you said, they haven't been a team, but I think that will help. As we saw at the end, they all came together in a huge celebration. And usually wins like that do, like close, controversial maybe wins, they help bring a team together. And we saw a great Messi performance, one of the best goals we'll ever see at a World Cup. And we've been treated to that this whole couple of weeks now. But just going back to that game against Nigeria, Argentina got really bailed out there. For me, I think that was 100% a penalty. Rojo headed against his own arm, and we've seen that being called all across the leagues for decades now, where it doesn't matter if his arm was stretched out, and he headed it against his own arm. It's not like in the Portugal game where the Iran player headed against Cedric, which was called a penalty. So if you're going to call that one, you have to call this one. And that would have completely sent Argentina home. And that changed the game for me.
But I think the Portugal one was wrong and this one was correct. And I'll tell you what, like, have you ever tried jumping with your arms to your side? There's no way you're going to get
You won't
height.
elevate properly.
You won't elevate
up.
at all. So, and the rule is that if you're headed and it hits the arm, it's not a penalty. Because you don't have time to react to where the ball's going. So I just think that
you're saying
the ref
the
did
Argentina
correct
one
call.
was not a penalty?
Was not, though it got correct.
Both are
called.
correct, or the Portugal one?
No, Portugal one's wrong.
Okay.
This one was correct.
Okay.
That's probably one of the best refs lately, even in the Champions League, right? He's been doing Champions League. I think he even did a final or whatnot. He got the call correct, and kudos to Argentina. They got the win. That's what they needed.
I mean,
but he took away the goal scoring opportunity from Igalo with his hand. If the ball does not touch Rojo's hand, Igalo is free on goal. Does he score? Maybe, but the point is he's free inside the 18.
But Igalo still had the ball and the opportunity to score even after that occurred. So him not finishing there, I guess there's no excuse after that point. You're right in front of the goal and he completely missed the target. The opportunity was there. He still had the goal scoring opportunity. So for my eyes, that's not a penalty. Again, elevating all the way up.
so
like
hard
jumping,
to do
it's so
arms.
difficult to do without your hands. That's why. And
No,
to
I
call
understand.
that,
I understand, but
can you imagine if they called that?
I
though?
myself,
Can you
being a
imagine?
defender, I've been called for that. So it happens everywhere.
He was wrong.
No, it happens everywhere. I've seen it called all across the club leagues.
Yeah, but it's not the call though. There was a flyer. I forgot where I saw it from. Even in the Portuguese league, if the ball gets headed the way it did in both games, it's not a penalty because you don't have time to react to the way the ball is going, the trajectory of the ball.
For me, his arm was in an unnatural position, being all the way stretched. His arm can be up, but his arm was out wide.
Every defender that challenges for a header in the box, where are their arms? Their arms
They're
are
up.
always
Exactly
up.
the way
They're
Rojo's
up, but they're
does.
not to the side.
They're always
Rojo's
up.
aren't
But
to the
technically
side.
they are to the side because you still have to muscle off an attacker that is trying to get the ball for you.
To
With
me,
that being
that
said,
doesn't matter.
But even the penalty before, even in that game, I didn't agree with that penalty call at all. That was very weak.
very light, yeah, for sure.
Very weak.
I still think that one is more than the handball one.
But tugging
'Cause he was
if
all
you tug
over
a guy's
him.
shirt,
That's
right?
a foul. That's a yellow straight away.
And
If you're
it's been
tugging his
called. It's
shirt-
been called previously in this World Cup, and we've seen defenders.
It was such a weak tug.
Yeah, but you
did
can't
not
tug
bring
in-
enough. He did not use enough force to bring him down.
Well,
That's my opinion, at
when
least.
you're running, any little touch, you'll fall, right?
But they were barely running. They were just moving around in the box.
I think moving on from that, because we can talk about this all day, but the other controversy that I think not a lot of people are talking about is the fact that Mascherano's face was bleeding
Yeah.
for the final, what was it, 10, 15
And
minutes?
Half an hour,
you
if
have to go
anything.
off.
And he was not, the
didn't
ref
go
did not card him off. And having been down to 10 men, that could have also changed the entire game for Nigeria. So it would have taken at least a couple minutes, 5 minutes maybe, to patch his
up.
face up.
Yeah, anything could have happened. Really,
And
realistically.
So
I'm glad you
so
brought
that
that up
for me
because-
is, I believe either way, Mascherano exiting the pitch would have changed the game.
Yeah.
Who knows what could have happened?
One of the things for me in that game is I actually love Messi's confidence in Marcus Rojo. And he said to him in the halftime huddle, he said, push up, go forward, and completely attack. It's a little bit of a stubborn thing to say. However, who scored in the end? Marcus Rojo. And Messi, for whatever it was, knew. If you look at all of Argentina's attack force, no one is incredibly tall. And Higuain, I'm sorry, does not have the power in his legs to start jumping over Nigerian defenders. Was not going to happen. But Marcus Rojo was a young guy. He's over 6 feet. He could have done it. And he got in the right position. And throughout that game, even as well, Messi's the first striker to score in the World Cup in his teens, 20s, and 30s. And he
What a
scored
goal
in his
that was.
100th stadium.
Beautiful goal.
That goal and all the technicality that occurred, to be able to control the ball on your thigh to your foot and keep it in front of you in a position that gives you a chance to score was incredible.
It all started from the ball from Banega. It was perfectly weighted for him, and he took it down so beautifully on his thigh. And didn't let it. He didn't let it.
outside of his thigh too.
Yeah.
It wasn't even.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't-
The top,
it wasn't-
Which
yeah.
which
He
is
pushed.
even
He
harder.
pushed it forward a little bit with his thigh, and to take it down on his left before the ball even hitting the ground to push it past the defender. Because if he doesn't do that, I think the Nigerian defender is right there on him. But the touch, that little touch to take it past him, was so brilliant. And then the
finish.
right foot finish.
Oh, man.
I saw a
Like,
video
oh
that after
my
the Iceland
God.
game, an Argentinian
amazing.
journalist gave Messi a ribbon from his mom. After the game that they won, that Argentina won against Nigeria 2-1, again, he's interviewing Messi, and Messi shows him that the ribbon is right in his boot. A little bit of, I guess, a good luck charm, so to speak.
Maybe. So, if I didn't make it clear already, I'm picking Argentina over France. France are the lowest scoring, or the second lowest scoring team to make it out of the group stage. They only have 3 goals, and the only other team below them is Denmark with 2, who is in their group. So, Group B for me was a bit underwhelming. It was a bit of an anomaly if you think about it, the way the World Cup has gone so far, being very anti-dramatic and
That's where the first tie came from too.
yeah,
That group.
so it's
Yeah.
it was a bit of an anomaly, this group. So I'm taking Argentina to go through. I think Messi pushes them through, and they come together as a team, and they keep building from this.
Yep, I got Argentina as well. Now, in that within that same bracket on that left side, that is traumatizing if you're a fan of any team on that left side because it is so competitive with all these big nations that are involved. The winner of that would play the winner of Uruguay and Portugal. And if the script can be written within this World Cup, we might see Ronaldo against Messi in a quarterfinal, which for a lot of people is the
Would be
World Cup
incredible, yeah.
final.
juicy
A
matchup.
little juicy, eh? I don't think it's gonna happen. For me, I'm taking Uruguay in this one, just because Ronaldo has been carrying the scoring load for this team, and he's never been able to score in the knockout rounds at a World Cup. And Uruguay have been very good defensively. Although they haven't put together the best performances, they are finding ways to win, and they haven't. It's scary when a team like this, with this much attacking talent, has only scored on set pieces. So the best is yet to come for me. They were my dark horse at the beginning, and I think they upset, or maybe not an upset, but they defeat the European champs for me and send Ronaldo home early.
Yeah, I am with you on that one as a dark horse, and for the winner of this, Uruguay have yet to concede a goal. They're the only team that hasn't yet. And I know you can say, yes, the competition has not been as competitive as other groups have been. I mean, they did
You
have
can only
to play
who's in front of you, right?
Exactly. They did have to play Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and then Russia. But they have shown that they have come to play in this tournament and they want to be here. And, of course, this is their last opportunity. Suarez and Cavani and Godin, they're very old. Tabarez, with his health, being in the conversation to continue to manage his team may not be in his future. But one of the things in that group that I took away, and we'll get to the other side afterwards, is Russia finally played a competitive team. And I know it's a bit cold to say, but they've come down to earth a little bit. And they've shown their weak points. They've shown that, for all the goals that they scored against Saudi Arabia and against Egypt, when Uruguay came in and Jimenez and Godin held the line and Vecino and Bentancur were good in the midfield, they struggled. And one of the man of the matches, aside from the goal scorers, was Rodrigo Bentancur for me. And I'm not saying that as in a biased way because, yes, he plays for Juventus, but the way that he commanded himself in the midfield and the way he carried the ball through the central part and played his outlet passes really helped Uruguay move offensively.
Man, I am scared to watch this game. You guys have no idea. But I'm taking my team, of course.
You have to.
You have
gotta
to.
take my team. And,
If you didn't, then we would judge you.
Of course. But I'm scared because, like you guys said, Uruguay hasn't let any goals in yet. But I still think they haven't played anybody like Ronaldo, right?
Nope.
So I just think that, maybe if Portugal gets one in, who knows? Maybe their defense breaks down a little bit and Portugal can get another one. But let's not forget how Portugal got stuck on this side of the bracket with the penalty that wasn't a penalty. But
they got lucky to get
You will
by.
never let this go.
of course, you can't. Man.
Iran was
You cannot.
inches
Of
away.
course.
Iran played so well.
Of course, credit to them, but we're moving on and they're not. But I still think there's not going to be that Portugal-Argentina because it's going to be Portugal and France the next round. Those are my two teams from this side of the bracket.
One of the things I remember you just said right now that they haven't played a guy like Ronaldo, but Godin and Jimenez play for Atletico. They play Ronaldo against Real. They know how to I think they know what to expect. Whether they can handle him or not is another conversation.
I don't think they've been able to really handle him at Madrid, right?
This year they have played Real into two ties. I mean,
it's been a different Madrid and a different Ronaldo at the same time,
in La Liga
right?
as well. That's correct. There are a lot of factors here. But, nonetheless,
it's going to be a juicy game, though.
This is a great start to the knockout rounds when you have two big games coming right up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just want to go back to that Group E action we saw there on the last match day, which was incredible, which almost saw both Portugal and Spain almost teeter-totter on the fence of falling out, crashing out. Just to take you through the timeline is what we love about the World Cup. Morocco got the early lead against Spain, but Spain got a quick response just 4 minutes later, and then we saw one of the great goals of the World Cup with Quaresma doing what he does.
Beautiful.
That's classic Quaresma,
I'm
right?
so used to those goals. I wasn't even surprised.
He
when
should
it went
trademark
in.
that outside kick.
That's
I don't know.
right. He owns that.
He owns it. He doesn't need a trademark. People know it.
The banana boot himself. But then another shock happened in the 81st minute when Morocco took the lead again. And Iran won a penalty around the same time and tied the game versus Portugal. So just for a moment, it looked as though Spain and Portugal, either one of those, were in danger. And then an unlikely hero, Iago Aspas, scored a death flick at the death to save Spain, thanks to the ruling from VAR.
That's a nice goal.
So to put the craziness in
Beautiful
context,
goal.
Iran was one goal away from winning the group.
And they hit the side netting, too, in the 91st or something.
Inches away.
Inches
He was
so-
from winning this
That guy
group.
was bawling his eyes out at the end, and you felt for him for a little bit because the weight of the nation is on his shoulders to propel Iran into the knockout stages.
I know you guys were hoping it went in.
No,
that would have been a really bad way for Portugal to go.
I love
with the
Ronaldo.
VAR.
I love Messi. I don't hate on either. I just love the football they bring.
yeah.
We're so blessed to be brought up in this era.
We'll never see it again.
To sit here and compare the both of them all the time,
can't.
we can sit at this table and argue it for 5 hours and still get nowhere. But the fact is that we have two players that are at this caliber of play. They bring it every single year, and to do that within this consistency is amazing. Because right now, who is the next guy? Can you name him? Because when Messi and Ronaldo were coming up, you generally knew these two were going to be the next best. You had that feeling. Yeah. Ronaldo went to Manchester United. He's learning from Sir Alex Ferguson. He's getting that training. Messi was always with Barcelona. He was playing with Ronaldinho and Eto'o and Deco and Puyol and Xavi, Iniesta. That was amazing. Who is the next one? And that's one of the things that can come up in conversation probably later on in our podcast episodes down the road when we get into the club football once the World Cup is done.
But the biggest
tough.
controversy for me in that match was the Ronaldo incident. Obviously, my guy here, the Portuguese legend Nelson, I don't think is going to say that's going to be a red, but
No, I had a conversation
for me,
with him
that's
before the
a
podcast.
straight red.
I don't think so.
That's a straight red.
In my opinion, it was
Look
a red.
at it. Look at it again. The Iranian player does it twice on purpose to get a reaction. Ronaldo just pushes him out of the way. Didn't even give him an elbow. If he gave him an elbow,
he swung
would,
right through.
He did swing
He
through.
would not have gotten up if that man gave him an elbow. Have you seen that guy without a shirt? I'm sure you
I
have.
know you have.
Who hasn't? Let's be realistic.
Well,
who hasn't?
who hasn't, but who stares at it and mesmerizes
Man,
it
you
all the
have
time.
to. With that, oh my God, that guy.
But I mean, why put yourself in that kind of
I
position? in the
photoshopped my
first
head on
place?
his body one time. I don't know if that counts.
that almost counts.
Um,
No, I agree.
But
I don't
he
think.
swings through for me.
I
And
don't think so. I think it's more of a shove. Like, get out of my way. You're blocking my way.
Yeah,
or
but it's
something,
if
right?
it's more of a shove, he's going to put his arm down on the other man's right,
No, 'cause
torso, so it's not a foul.
the-
Why are you swinging over him and then hitting him with your fist?
From the replay I saw, and I had a weird experience, and I'll tell you guys if you guys want to know after about switching restaurants and whatnot while watching the game. But
Did you dine and dash?
No.
Don't lie.
Let me tell you first.
Don't
and then
lie.
I'll tell you guys when
You're
we
gonna
get our
convict
picks.
him.
No, I
You're,
didn't.
gonna,
dine and
you're
dash.
getting
No,
convicted
no,
right
no.
now on this podcast. Right
I
now.
did not dine and dash, but I'll explain. But let me explain what I saw. What I saw was the player went in front of him. Then Ronaldo kind of like got away, but then he did it again. He was kind of falling, so his hands kind of went over his shoulder and pushed him. It didn't like for me. I don't. Okay, you want to give him a yellow? Sure, why not? Okay, maybe give him a warning, but I don't think you're gonna give him a red card for that.
That would have been one of the darkest points in his career.
Oh, for sure.
Had he got red carded,
sure.
and who knows what happens after that? Because the way Iran was playing,
Oh,
they
yeah.
might have deserved to win. You know,
Iran and Morocco honestly surprised everybody. If you really think about it, everyone would walked into this group and said, "Yeah, this group's a pushover. Spain and Portugal are going to dominate both of the other teams."
Yeah,
and then
so
against
much
one
credit
another,
has to be
it would
given to
probably
them.
be either a tie or maybe one of them would squeak out with a win. They put up a fight and a half to play against these two nations. And look, like we said it before, a lot of the big nations have not come out properly in this
Yeah.
tournament.
Spain put together an abysmal performance against Morocco, and
For two out of the three games, they weren't
Yeah.
really that great. Just like
And-
Portugal didn't play that great in
No,
2 out
Portugal
of the 3
didn't play
games
the
either,
two
right?
games. They only played well against each other because they
Yeah.
mentally prepared
Yeah.
to come out of the gates and play against each other. And the other games, they got cocky. It's
Yeah.
like Germany. They got cocky against Mexico. They got cocky against South Korea, and they never came out with a result.
Are we gonna miss teams like Iran, Morocco, Peru, like teams that just come out and play and don't care who they're playing, this attacking football? Because it's been pretty interesting, and I think maybe starting now we might not see that type of football anymore because teams are going to be more closed off, more tactical.
I think we're going to see a lot of games go to extra time again.
Yeah.
It
that
seems to
that's
be that
what you
story
expect
all the
in the
time.
knockout round.
Yeah.
Like I think those smaller nations, they're
nothing
good
to
for the
lose.
group stages, but when you actually get into the nitty gritty, when you get to the knockout rounds, you want to see the world's best talent on display. And I think it would be a disappointment if we saw Iran versus Peru in the semifinals. You know, nobody's going to watch that. We want to see France versus
For
or
sure.
Argentina versus Portugal, something like that. You know,
Yeah,
correct.
So I think it's great. It's a great story for them. You know, they accomplished, I think, more than they ever thought they would at this World Cup. So hats off to them on an incredible display. You know, they earned a lot of people's respect. But, you know, it's time for the big dogs to come out and show who they are.
I think we're also not going to see a high-scoring day like we did on June the 24th, which was the highest-scoring day in the FIFA World Cup so far with 14 goals. England beat Panama that day 6-1, Japan 2-2 with Senegal, Colombia 3-0 with against Poland. I don't think we're not going to see that anymore because teams are so tentative when it comes to the attacking football and playing very freely. They are, I think, more so in the group stage, more so than now. Now, moving down the bracket, let's keep going here before we start getting caught up on everything else.
Keeping to the left side?
Yeah,
We're gonna keep it to the left side, to the left, like Beyonce always told everybody back in the early 2000s, and I guess everyone listened. Who knows? But Brazil now play Mexico, and this one is interesting because we did see Brazil not play their best. They did play fairly well against Serbia later on in the game, but for the first half they were facing an onslaught by the Serbians and managed to keep
the result.
kept
Story
the
of the
result,
World
kept the
Cup.
clean sheet. Now Mexico didn't show up at all against Sweden.
They got
And
lucky they made it through.
Yeah, they got lucky
Very
and
lucky.
could have almost went out.
That would have been incredible if they went out.
Yep.
Like, can you imagine you go into a group stage and
Beat
you
Germany.
win 2 games, you beat Germany, and then you go home?
That would have been
That's demoralizing.
The second team since, I believe, the 86 World Cup. That one team had 6 points and was about to be eliminated.
Yeah.
They got lucky that the Germany game ended the way it did. But what was I going to say? Brazil, like, it's the story of the World Cup. The big teams aren't showing up, right? But I still think that Brazil's going to come out, right? They have that attacking power. The only thing for me is Alisson, for me, is still not convinced me that he deserves to be in net. There's a bunch of times where I see crosses and could easily grab them and he punches them or he hesitates. That's my weak point is their goaltending. But other than that, I think that they're going to win over Mexico.
For me, it's a couple things. First of all, it's Gabriel Jesus not producing. He hasn't found the net. He hasn't done much of anything. And I don't understand why Firmino hasn't earned a start yet.
I would be playing Firmino as well.
And then also the Marcelo injury with his back. The team doctors are blaming it on the soft bed, saying it's too soft for him, and he's had a previous back injuries, and so it's bothering even more now. But
he said in his Instagram
he
that
should
he was
be
gonna
okay.
Be
fine. But again, he left after 10 minutes, so that's never a good sign.
Yeah, how good is fine too as well? Like you leave with a back injury that you have history.
Could have just been a precaution.
And they're gonna need him against Mexico.
I think they'll also need Neymar as well, fully fit, and we haven't seen it from him yet. Mm-hmm. They may need Douglas Costa as well, which is another guy that is injured and his health is a bit of a problem. Like Chiche's got a lot on his plate right now. One of the best players for me in that Brazilian team that showed up against Serbia was Miranda, and he really surprised me a little bit while watching the game. You think that he's just going to play next to Thiago Silva and he's not going to do anything. No, he held it back there. He held the captain's armband. He did the job, and that was a good thing. And Felipe Coutinho has been their best player, and he's been playing this left central midfield role, which is not what he normally plays.
Well, he has played there.
He has played there, yes, but that's not what he normally plays.
Barca as well.
But for me, I'm sticking with my pick to win it all, which is Brazil. But this really has a making to be one of the best games in the round, full of pace, full of attacking movements. I think it's going to be a tight game to the final whistle, but Mexico will eventually pay for not finishing the group stage strong, because if they top the group, they go against Switzerland. It's a completely different. They go on a completely different end of the bracket and
much easier way
to their best finish, which would be the semifinals. Or the quarterfinals. Sorry. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going with Brazil.
Yeah, I'm taking Brazil as well for this one. I think that Mexico underperforming in their last match really kind of ruins the momentum in a way, and they're probably thinking in their minds, well, now we need to try even harder against Brazil because we didn't show up against Sweden and we lost to goals against Sweden and very good tactical play by the Swedes. And you're going up against a nation now that is hungry for another World Cup. I mean, going to the semifinals, losing against Germany 7-1 in the fashion that they did, you want to recover. You want to put the best performance that you possibly can within this tournament. Mexico have not been to the quarterfinals since they hosted the tournament both times in 70 and 86. It really looked as if they were so competitive and had a good chance. But when you're in the group stage, you can forgive teams for a bit of jitters in the first match, but finishing strong is so essential moving into that knockout round. For me, I think they killed their momentum in a way, and Brazil is going to come out on all cylinders.
Yeah.
That's not
going to the exact opposite, moving down, Belgium versus Japan. I think Belgium finished the group very strong, but unfortunately, I'm going to pick Japan in this one. I'm going to go against popular opinion. I had them as my biggest disappointment going in, and I think that holds true. I had Poland finishing in this position, but it's Japan instead, but they've looked good as well. Belgium have been dominated in their 3 group games, but they've barely been challenged. And then they go into the game against England and rest all their players, most of their starting 11. But I think Japan gives them a little bit of a wake-up call, and there's usually at least one upset in a round in the World Cup, and for me, this is the one.
I disagree. I mean, I know we got to stick to our brackets, but you both know how much I stick to my bracket, which is never in the cards. I always flip-flop and change my mind. I mean, I don't even have the same finals as I did in the bracket that I did on FIFA, because you have to go with a bit of the motion and see what the vibe is going through the World Cup. And now you can try to predict, what is going to happen. Belgium, for me, beat them probably 2 or 3-0, depending on the health of Romelu Lukaku as well. I still think that their offense is so potent with Eden Hazard playing very well, Kevin De Bruyne's playing very well. With a healthy Lukaku, who's going to defend him and the aerial threats? And, one of the guys that really played so well, aside from Adnan Januzaj, who scored against England, and he was with Manchester United for so long and projected to be this player, and then he ended up leaving, was Yuri Tielemans. And he played so well in that midfield, and he had that nice shot, and Pickford made a good save. I generally thought that at the beginning of this tournament, this Belgian team was going to flop again. And I know we've seen them play against Tunisia, Panama, and then a B team England with their B team. But it does actually look a little bit different. Now, the momentum can carry on. I think they'll beat Japan. It's the game against Brazil that is a make or break for them in the round after this one. Mm-hmm. That's where their true challenge will be. I think they'll beat Japan comfortably.
Yeah, I'm taking Belgium too. I think Robbie just basically got all my points that I was going to mention as well. I just think they overpower Japan. They have too much attacking threat, and I don't know if Japan has the same for Belgium. But for me, I think this is where they will achieve is just passing Japan, and I don't think they'll go much further, which will be contrary to what a lot of people thought they were going to do. But that's just my opinion, and I don't think they'll go much further than the next round.
I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind too is, can Belgium get it together defensively as well? We've seen some shakes, and last game against England, with Vincent Kompany in there, they looked like a rock in the back, and it looked a lot better than when Vertonghen and Alderweireld were trying to command that line, and they looked confused. They didn't know what their positions were going to be on corners. They didn't know what the positions were going to be on the counterattacks that they were facing. They were all lost. Kompany in there, for me, he's got to be in there. He has to be, and because Roberto Martinez plays that 3-4-3 as well. 3 perennial central defenders in the back with Kompany in there would really cause a lot of teams problems going forward offensively and possibly break them down on counterattacks.
I don't think you guys are giving Japan enough credit here. We've seen them play against Colombia and defeat Colombia.
10-man Colombia.
10-man
right?
Colombia.
Let's not forget that.
A win is a win at the World Cup at the end of the day. Then they go toe-to-toe with one of the quickest teams and one of the most fascinating teams at the World Cup in Senegal, and they earn a draw. And then they go against Poland, and they do what they do to get through. They play very anti-football, but, credit for them for qualifying for the next stage when nobody even gave them a shot. Yeah. I had them finishing 4th in my bracket. So I don't have a problem with their tactics they used against Poland. Even the coach said he was disappointed in himself, and he felt bad. But you have to do what you have to do. I have no problem with that. They heard the scoreline from the other match and knew they wouldn't be advancing. They would be advancing, if results stayed the same. So they set up shop and defended their 1-0 loss, which seems kind of strange. But they made sure they got the job done. They didn't pick up any more yellows, which would have sent them home. And they didn't concede, which would have sent them home. So credit to them. I think not a lot of people are giving them credit for what they've done so far in the World Cup. And yeah, let's give them the upset.
You know what? Let's give them the credit as well that they have the best jerseys remaining in the World Cup. I think that blue kit with the dots in the middle and then the Japan, it's so nice. And aside from Nigeria's, which one that one was the best, this one comes second best. Just also for one more quick point about Belgium before we head on to the right side of the group, which is actually probably the most interesting one out of the two. Belgium's coach Roberto Martinez said after the game that it wasn't actually the victory that he was going for. It was getting stronger as a group. And if you can play your B team and the chemistry works very well, what does that mean for your A team as well? And how you can incorporate, some B team players or the bench, so to speak. Let's just stick with that. We'll call it the bench. That's what it is. How can you incorporate your bench players when you need to come on and make some subs? And it's just about getting stronger and stronger. And I like that he has fueled that mentality for the nation, because under Mark Wilmots, they had too many expectations. They're all over the place. This one, there's a lot better of a structure. And managers play a very massive role in calibrating your team and making it a good team, both chemistry-wise and with your talents in the same fashion. I think that he's done a very good job with this. Now, moving on to the right side of the group, now we got Spain playing Russia.
The host nation are going home. Spain are the heavy favorites for a good reason. Russia, as you said, got brought right back down to earth and showed they are not who we think they are through the first 2 games. And I think Spain's talent will just allow them to cruise by and win by at least 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Spain as well. I just don't think the host nations have much that they can handle and contain that Spanish midfield. And I just think they're going to get run over by Spain, to be honest. The way they lost to Uruguay, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again against Spain.
I'm surprised that we're all agreeing on something for once in this show. I mean, we finally come together and say, yeah, we're agreeing on this. Yeah, Spain for me. Russia were quite cumbersome against Uruguay. They couldn't get it together. And I don't think that, this, again, going against Spain now, especially with Spain being hungry, I mean, let's give Spain a little bit of criticism because, they haven't come out to play.
Yeah,
I mean, they have not looked that
underperformed.
good. However, this is the knockout rounds. This is a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like going from the regular season to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, the regular season was a group stage. Playoff starts now. And these one-round knockout games can bring the best or can bring the worst out of people. And I think that Russia cave into the pressure a little bit.
I think Russia planned this a little bit, though, because they're playing at their home stadium. I think they kind of expected to finish below Uruguay in this group. Maybe they expected to play Portugal instead of Spain, but they are playing at their home stadium where they played in the first game where they destroyed Saudi Arabia 5-0. So maybe they planned it a little bit, and maybe that helps them. But in the end, I think Spain just has too much.
And Spain's on a good side of the bracket too, right? Because they don't have much competition compared to the other side where we have Argentina, France, Brazil, Belgium, and Portugal,
names.
right?
All the big names
are on the left, and this one is just Spain. Maybe Croatia will give them a run, and then England and Colombia, which we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So moving right down to Croatia, who to me can win it all at this point. They've been incredible. They've played Denmark in the next round, and I think Croatia do get by. They've been one of the best teams and emerged as one of the teams to challenge, especially on the weaker side of the draw. A Croatia win would set up a very intriguing matchup against Spain that I would really love to see Rakitic go against most of his teammates at Barcelona. So I'm excited for Croatia-Spain.
I'm taking Croatia as well, and it's the first time that they've ever topped a group in the history of their World Cup. I just think they have too much for Denmark that they won't be able to withstand, and then it'll be a juicy Spain-Croatia game the next
Everything's
round.
juicy to you.
Have
today.
you been listening to Biggie lately? Is that where this is coming from?
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm a little hungry.
You just ate.
You know me, Portuguese guys are always eating.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. I
you guys
just
are
think
not very
that
far off.
for me, Croatia's been the team to beat so far. The way they played against Argentina, the way they won the group, they've been the most impressive to me. And I just think that I don't know if many teams will be able to stop that midfield power that they have.
Yeah.
Of Rakitic and Modric.
I agree.
Kovacic,
They can go all the way
Rebic.
as well, in my opinion. Like, don't
All
get me
these
wrong.
itches.
Denmark are a pretty good team. They've competed very well against Peru. They had to withstand Peru a little bit, but they competed very well against France. I mean, Christian Eriksen is their catalyst. He's got 23 goals and 81 caps for a midfielder. I mean, he does lead the line, but it comes down to, Croatia being the best team at this moment. They're the best team so far that we've seen. They've done it convincingly. They go and they beat Iceland with a majority of them being their subs. They crushed Argentina, no question about it. In their first game, they played Nigeria, and again, they won fairly convincingly. And they play so well. And yeah, like you said, Nelson, their midfield is the best in this World Cup. And we would have gotten in probably thinking Spain's is because of their names: Isco, Iniesta, Busquets, and maybe Thiago Alcantara coming off the bench. But Modric, Rakitic, those two, and it's funny because they both play for Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're technically rivals in the club football level. They've come together very well. They're getting it done. They got good forwards. They got young forwards in Marco Piaca. They got some veteran leadership in Mario Mandzukic. Kramaric has done well. This is all good. This is all playing out in their favor, and I think they'll beat Denmark, move on into the quarterfinals to play Spain.
Okay, so Switzerland, Sweden. Who you got, Rob?
Switzerland. I got to go with
I didn't see you picking them.
the red cross and the flag. Yeah, just Switzerland for me. I mean, the game against Serbia probably turned their tournament around. And, yeah, they tied Costa Rica, and, they went through that whole little spiel there. But it was that momentum of Granit Xhaka hitting a banger. Then Xherdan Shaqiri goes and scores on the run on the counterattack. They're a dangerous team, and I think that Sweden have their work cut out for them, and they know that. on a competitive level, they're probably on par because this is, out of all the matchups that we have here, this is probably the most even. Like, look at them. They will attack, they will defend, they'll work hard. There's two hard-working teams here. I just like Switzerland. I mean, Seferovic can be a real big problem for Grankvist to deal with, and if you eliminate Grankvist, now you have Xhaka to deal with in the midfield. You got Shaqiri to deal with. You can bring on Briel and Bolo to do the job. I'm going with Switzerland, guys. Even their fullbacks are good. Stefan Lichtsteiner and Ricardo Rodriguez. And Jan Sommer, the goalie, has made some incredible saves so far. He looks pretty good right now.
Sorry, Rob, you're wrong. Sweden's going to win, actually.
Why would you tell me that? I don't like this.
I actually agree with him.
This is discrimination.
I agree
2
with
on
him.
1. I don't like this
I
at
think
all.
Sweden's taking this.
You have to go with the Group F winners. You know, to win the group against Mexico and Germany is incredible.
Let's
The
not
way
forget,
they came,
they also took out Italy, and in the qualifiers they beat Holland.
yeah.
They do deserve to be here, no doubt about
super
it.
teams that they beat.
No
to get
one's
here.
giving them credit for what they
None.
deserve, and I jokingly said in the first podcast that I don't want them anywhere near the World Cup, but the way they performed, they deserve it. They continue their strong play and get the win over Switzerland. I think it'll be an interesting match, but with both teams making maybe taking the more cautious approach, not wanting to make a mistake or concede. But Sweden has just proven to be able to come together as a team, score more goals, and also be very organized at the back, led by the big man with the dad bod, Andris Grankvist, leading the
Dad
team
bods
in
for the win.
goals as well.
He's getting the
2
job
from
done back
penalties.
there.
Got to give it to him, man. He looks absolutely drained after 5 minutes, but
I think it's one
But
too many
just-
Swedish beers that are going into his stomach.
just pots in 2 penalties like they're nothing. Like, he doesn't feel pressure, and so with him leading the line and in goals, I think they're able to get past Switzerland. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, they came out of the group with Germany, although they did lose to Germany, and that kind of fell for them the way that they lost too.
Well, yeah, I think they deserve more in that one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think when Marcus Berg was taken down by Boateng in the
Should have been a penalty.
Should have been a
I
straight red
agree,
and a
yeah.
penalty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But then they also knocked out Italy, like I said before. They've been playing a very collective game, and it's been interesting to watch them play this World Cup. And I just think they have too much for Switzerland. They're just more of a collective.
I know. I see what you guys are saying because Ola Toivonen and even their striker had 0 goals in 23 league matches for Toulouse this year, and he scored a vital goal against Germany that really put them back on their heels, and Germany were getting concerned. Let's say, I mean, watching that game, the energy when you were watching it is, wow, Germany might actually lose, and they almost did if it wasn't for a couple of fouls, and then Sweden not having that penalty did factor in. I just like Switzerland because I like the way they play it. I think they're a faster team than Sweden. We'll see what happens. But going now into the last one, we have Colombia against England, and
Very,
as we
very
saw,
good matchup.
Another
as we saw
juicy one.
yesterday, another juicy one. Buddy, do you want to become a rapper or something? I mean, you might as well. But coming into this one, there are some concerns for Colombia. James Rodriguez had to leave the last match, and it doesn't look good. From our fan perspective, we don't know the actual information. Nothing has been released yet, so we can't account for,
Yeah,
we can't sit here and predict.
The head coach is just saying it's very concerning, and so that's all we can go off of, right? So it doesn't look good, although their game is still a few days away. But if James is not good to go on picking England, and if he is good to go on picking Colombia, that's just the way it is. I think he's a game changer for them. The way he played in their second game to win 3-0, he was the catalyst in that game, and their play depends a lot about him. I give them the slight edge if he plays, and whoever wins this match, I think, wins the next game as well.
I'm going with the 3 Lions.
It's coming home.
Not that it's coming home. I'm taking no. Let's take a step back here. I think that Harry Kane is a force to be reckoned with. He's the marquee man for his country. He has 5 goals in 2 games for England. And look, dealing with him and Dele Alli, and then you have to possibly deal with Jesse Lingard and Rashford, and the hard-working chemistry that Gareth Southgate has created within the locker room for England is actually turning out to be in their benefit. Look, they have the second youngest team in the tournament. France is tied with them. But you know what? England can get the job done here against Colombia just because of the way they play. Now, they have to deal with a few things here. I mean, aside from James being healthy, let's take in a few of the factors that have happened for Colombia that have led to their success. Through balls must be tended to at all times, because we saw Radamel Falcao slip in and go and score the goal in the group stage, and they've started to find ways for Falcao to get in behind the defense. Yuri Mina is a concern for me for England because he's so good and he's incredible. It seems like Colombia,
defense and offense.
You know, Colombia in 2014, the star was James Rodriguez. Now it's Yuri Mina. They're creating a star every World Cup.
I don't know how he's going to be able to not get playtime now at Barcelona coming back.
Oh, you will. Right beside Samuel Umtiti.
He's showing that they're going to be good at the back for the next decade with Umtiti and now
he's so
Yuri
young.
Mina stepping up. So once Piqué hangs up the boots, you know, he has a good replacement.
And the best part is he gets to learn from Piqué.
Yeah.
And what better mentor you can possibly have within the club than to learn from Piqué?
Shakira?
For so many years. Yeah, Shakira. If the hips don't lie, then they'll be okay.
Exactly. Yuri Mina doesn't lie. Two beautiful headers he scored so far, and really Colombia, I picked Colombia. I give the slight edge to Colombia because they have overcome a lot of controversy, you know, in the first match with Carlos Sanchez being red carded. And to fight through the first game loss is always tough at a World Cup. You know, that if you lose on opening day,
you're almost basically sent home packing, yeah?
It's really tough to overcome that. It's really tough. And yeah, so Yuri Mina for me is the X factor again. And then, James Rodriguez is the X factor, but Yuri Mina has been playing out of his mind. So if James is good to go, I'm going with Colombia.
I have to go with Colombia. I have some love for Colombian soccer and a lot of their culture. Let's not go there.
There's an underlying factor here.
Their culture.
Man.
Come on.
I've seen their players. A bunch of them have grown up in Porto, and I've had some love for them during the World Cup just because of the way that they play. They're, you know, they bring like this different type of football to the World Cup. And I just think that, you know, Falcao, man, when he gets those balls, he can put them in the back of the net, and it's too much for such a young England team to handle. You know, a lot of people think it's coming home, but I don't think it's coming home this year. I think they're prepping for the tournament in 2 years' time, the Euro, but I think Colombia's coming. They're going to win it, and then they'll win the next round as well.
I do like that England put themselves in the position to actually lose against Belgium and then now put them in the right side of the bracket. They've given themselves.
Yeah, I don't think they really wanted to win. That game was so dreadful to watch. I literally fell asleep.
I was about to.
I was in and out doing some stuff on my laptop.
I was not excited to go back over to the TV and actually watch it because it was so dead. And then as I was, you know, writing some notes for this podcast, all I hear the commentators go nuts, and Adnan Januzaj is running down the byline and he's celebrating. And it was a nice goal, don't get me wrong. One of the things I like about England is, you know, the conversation, especially for the past 3 FIFA World Cups, has been their goalkeeping. I mean, they had Paul Robinson in 2006. They had Robert Green in 2010 that ended up being David James. And then they go and they bring Joe Hart, and he does nothing again. But for me, Jordan Pickford has been pretty good this World Cup for England in his goalkeeping.
Has he faced much? I think he's only faced about four shots with it.
Yeah, he hasn't really faced.
He hasn't really been tested as of yet, and I think he will versus Colombia.
And then that's when we'll see who England really is, right? Because they're finally playing a team. Belgium's a great team, but let's give credit. That was their bench playing.
Both of
them. Yeah. So I kind of want to see the Colombian, the English team take on a good Colombian side, and like you were saying, Dev, I guess it comes down to James, but you know he didn't really play much. I think it was the first game, and the red card happened as well. Right? But
and I think
they didn't.
The second
play too
game
bad.
Against who they play, Senegal. They beat 3-0.
Yeah.
So
Colombia, Poland. They beat 3.
Poland. Yeah. So they ran through Poland very easily, and James was the little magician creating everything for them. So all their play ran through him in their huge win. Obviously, Poland was just awful at this World Cup.
I expected
very
so much more, to be honest.
But Colombia put in a great performance, and I think a lot of it went down to James's play in the middle. And his creativity, and I think they're going to need that to get through England.
And even then, I think Quintero's been really great, and I know I don't Like last week, I was like,
You
I don't know
changed
if I really want him on Portal, but
My guy's changing his mind a
I
little
think
bit.
we-
each
a
game.
little bit, a little bit.
A little.
The more
No, I
I've
think
been
it's a
watching him-
lot. It's a lot. You're fully changing your mind. You're just trying not
Yeah,
to admit it.
just a
Come
little
on.
bit.
Each game, my guy changing a little bit
Man,
more.
from
Watch, we're
what
gonna
he
come
was-
back next week, and he's probably gonna email him or
I'm
something.
probably gonna rip him a new one.
The
but-
exact opposite is for me with Andre Silva. He can leave anytime.
and he looks like it, but we'll get to him soon. I don't like a few years ago, Quintero wasn't the player that he was a good passer of the ball, but like it seems like he picked up his game and he kind of has been helping this Colombian team a lot. So I think if James isn't there, he'll step in and somebody else will come in. I think they'll be fine. They'll still get through.
Speaking of like good tests, I mean, Gareth Southgate said after the match that against Belgium that it was a good test for the England side to see, like what is going to happen. England had good chances. I mean, Marcus Rashford should have finished. He had a breakaway. I don't think there's an excuse for that one.
He missed a couple.
He completely missed the net, and it didn't happen for him that night. But one of the things that England did is they never stopped working. They continued to work. And the momentum shift probably is not going to occur for them. I think that they're going to come out strong against Colombia. We'll see. That's probably the most one of the most interesting ties aside
Definitely,
as well from Croatia and Denmark as
Brazil,
being,
Mexico.
or sorry, Sweden and Swiss as being an even one. I think that this one is around those cards as well. You're not really leaning towards one side completely because it's like you said, Dev, if James is in, you'll take Colombia. But if not, you're taking England. So it's roughly meeting in the middle with this one.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, one of the big storylines that kind of emerged during the South Korea-Mexico game was the whole South Korea team would be forced into their mandatory 2 years of military service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they took that devastating loss against Mexico, their dream of making the quarterfinals was basically
over.
wrapped up.
Yeah, it was
over.
shot. You saw Sung Young Min crying his heart
It
out.
was
He
over.
really fell from it.
Really
that time.
seen.
It's
So
terrible.
yeah, the commentators during the Mexico-Korea match mentioned multiple times of the loss in Korea, and the Tottenham star that we all know is Heung-min Son, and he will turn 26 at the end of the month, which is the age where most adults fulfill their military service in South Korea. So the only way out of doing the military service was to do something spectacular at a sporting event. And the last people to ever do that was in the 2002 South Korea team when they made the semifinals. So unless they win the Asian Games, I believe it's coming up soon, that's the only way out for Heung-min Son, or else this is really going to put a halt on his career at Tottenham and in general.
You might feel that it might ruin his career. Yeah, his fitness will be
devastating.
there,
It's
but
really
2
devastating.
years out of the game,
It's a long time.
exactly. And you're playing your best football right now. Like the goal he scored in the second game against Mexico was
brilliant,
actually
yeah.
just an amazing goal.
And to cap off the game against Germany too, and like all credit has to be given to Korea. I think just beating Germany like that and sending them home, finishing ahead of Germany in the end, should at least be deserved of something.
I agree. I think that should have been the factor. You're heroes in the country.
That's what I was just gonna say.
You
find
just
to
knocked
find
out the
the
best
courage.
nation in the world. You
The
should be exempt from the military
defending
service.
champion.
Yeah, to find the
Right?
courage
Yep.
to put on that kind of performance, not like to hold a shutout against Germany is something to be credited.
They finished the tournament with pride, and I think that needs to be said as well, that they didn't just bow out.
Yeah,
They played a competitive game. They still came and played, and regardless, they knew that they were going home and that their bags are probably packed, but they showed up at that stadium against Germany, and they handed
they had
it
a
to
point
them.
to prove, right? And I'm glad they fought, because if they just rolled over and let Germany escape with the win, kind of would have bailed Germany out,
Looked bad on them too, right?
Exactly.
And then no more African teams in the World Cup. We saw a historic moment when Senegal was eliminated, being the first team, as we mentioned earlier in the show, to be eliminated based on yellow cards.
Yellow cards, yeah.
Based on the fair play rule.
Ridiculous.
What
That
do
needs to
you
be-
think about that?
That needs to be
It's
reviewed.
ridiculous.
Needs to be reviewed. There
But-
are other ways to match it in terms of stats, and why of all things to do is yellow cards. I mean, for example, let's say the hypothetical here that if there was a yellow card that was so controversial and it was awarded to Senegal, and they were awarded the yellow card, and that was the difference. Really?
Especially getting through the games, like the first couple of games in the groups. You're not even thinking
Not
about
thinking
that.
about it.
No.
Right.
You're just thinking about winning.
Yeah, you're not really concerned about, I'm going to have to sometimes you need to take a yellow card in some situations.
Yeah, you have to make that tactical foul
So,
to prevent a goal. And I mean, now
it's
what is
tough.
that? What does that do now for teams that head into the next World Cup?
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be in your mind when you go into a game? Not only do we have to win, now we can't concede yellow cards.
Yeah.
Now we have to keep possession all the time. I mean, it plays into so many factors in a team's mind that it can actually ruin the team, and it can bog them down from the play that they are known to be, from the level that they are actually playing at.
What could they do to instead of that, you think?
Shots on target. Attempts
Ooh.
on goal are always
It's tough.
high,
That's-
but the shots on target in
But-
correlation to the shots on goal,
Okay.
the shots on goal.
you
are
said
normally-
shots on target, shots on goal. So you mean shots in general?
Sorry, yeah, I overlapped myself. Shots attempted
Yeah.
versus the shots on target. The shots on target should be the
For,
factor.
for me, that's almost like the yellows though, because
You just take shots from anywhere. Right?
yeah, right. And then, like, for example, if you have a game that your team is supposed to be more defensive because you're facing, let's say, a powerhouse, you're not gonna really shoot on target,
Yeah.
right? Your plan
just
first is to
defending,
defend, and then maybe you'll counterattack.
But
right?
it doesn't necessarily mean that the powerhouse is going to hit the net every single time. We saw that
No,
Germany
but-
squandered so many opportunities against South Korea.
But-
Mats Hummels
and
kept
look-
hitting it over
look
the
how many
net,
shots they
burning
had,
it to the
right?
side.
Yeah.
They had a lot of shots and a lot of
They had a lot of shots,
chances,
but
right?
not too many of them hit the target.
Maybe when it's like that, they could just do like a penalty shootout or something, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
take much energy.
I mean, you could just flip a coin. No.
Let's not
that's
go back
almost the same
to,
thing
to
as
that.
the
Let's
other. I wanna
not,
flip a
let's
coin.
not go back to that.
I mean-
that's how they used to determine other tournaments back then.
Yeah,
Was to flip
yeah.
a coin. Okay, here's the winner, and everyone sits there and claps with their top hats on and their
Why not
wool
just a
coats.
healthy game of Monopoly?
Why not? We should play Monopoly on the
Snakes
show.
and ladders.
A 3-hour game of Monopoly. I think a game would last. They could do a single game playoff.
World Cup Monopoly?
Checkers.
No,
checker.
let's
Ooh.
not play checkers. That's too frustrating.
Is
How
it?
about they just see who can
Yeah.
kick the ball the highest?
Or how about they play Crazy Eights on Game Pigeon
Whoever
on
has the best
iMessage?
touch?
Oh man. Oh. You
But-
guys want to hear about my story?
Let's hear it.
All right, let's go.
Me and
End it off.
a few buddies of mine.
have friends?
Shout out, yes, I have friends. Shout out
Good for
Rui,
you.
Mike, Andy. We went to go watch the Portugal game at Williams Landing. So we get there. The TVs are good. You know they have.
better
the
give you
Portugal
free
game.
food.
Where did
after
William
They didn't
land?
give us no free food.
After this,
They're not gonna give us nothing.
Where did William land?
Oh, well, clearly not where we were sitting. So we were watching the game, and there was a bunch of Portuguese people, and I was actually pretty surprised because normally you don't really see that many Portuguese people at like that type of restaurant. And we asked her to put the volume on for the Portuguese game, and the waitress, God bless her soul, she was so sweet. She tried everything in her power to put the game on for the Portuguese people because we weren't the only table. There was like probably good 10
You
tables.
guys show up in bunches, man.
10 tables, Portuguese people.
It's like a
and
herd.
There were
Yeah.
no Spanish
They don't travel
people,
alone.
and the manager says no. The Spanish sound is on,
Wow.
and then after a lot
No
of
one hit him.
It was a woman. No one's gonna hit no
Okay.
women here.
We don't advocate for that. I'm
No.
sorry.
And then we heard her talking shit about us, saying not just about us, but Portuguese people, that there's not enough Portuguese people to put the sound on, but there's a lot of Spain. When Spain scored, you heard crickets.
Yeah.
Right? And when Portugal scored, the whole bar went nuts. So, unfortunately for her, everyone left at halftime, and we had to go to a different bar.
Good
So-
for you.
I
Yeah,
don't
gotta-
blame you guys. I mean,
for you.
that's kind of wrong.
I
Like, if the
feel like
majority of your restaurant wants a game to be put on, you
It's
put the game
yeah,
on.
everyone was asking, which was mind-boggling. And then she just had the nerves to like talk about it, and we're listening about it. We're listening everything she's saying. But hey, we went to local, and then we just watched the game there, which was pretty good. And they had the sound on, thankfully, because we were going nuts that first half.
Did they have that commentator Nuno? Did he come on
No,
again?
no.
He
They had
didn't
the
yell
English
obrigado?
commentation. He's great. He's great. But yeah, that's my little story. We were pretty frustrated.
Well, that's a good story. And now we're going to wrap up the third episode of our podcast. Once again, I'm Robert Belardi alongside Devon Imrie and Nelson Santo. Our technical producer is Matthew Stevens. And we hope that you enjoy the games tomorrow. France take on Argentina at 10
We'll
o'clock.
see you soon. Hoping to be back at the end of this round. Once the round's up, we'll have another
Yeah.
episode for you guys.
Of course. And at 2 o'clock, don't forget, Portugal take on Uruguay. Be sure to watch it. Be sure to stay hydrated. It's going to be hot in the city this weekend. Projected to be close to 40 degrees, if not over. So it'll be good.